All right, good morning. Sorry for the delay, everybody. My name is Jeannie Montblanc, and on behalf of the Great Basin Fire Science Exchange, the Bureau of Land Management, and the Nature Conservancy, and all of our partners, I would like to welcome you to this webinar titled Successful Vegetation Management Practices in the Sagebrush Steppe, presented by Doug Havlina with the BLM in Boise, Jill Silvertand with the Nature Conservancy in Long Beach, and David Mehlman with the Nature Conservancy in Albuquerque. Before I introduce our speakers, I will go over some webinar details. If you have questions or comments for the speakers or me, please type them into the questions window of your control panel, which is located at the top right of your screen, at any time during the webinar. I will field your questions for the speakers after the presentation. I also want to let you know that whatever you do in your control panel does not affect the webinar presentation. So you're welcome to type a test message or test your audio at any time during the webinar. If you're having problems with your audio, please open your audio window and check your audio selections. Now I would like to introduce our presenters. Doug Havlina is a fire ecologist with the Bureau of Land Management Fire and Aviation Directorate in Boise, Idaho. Doug's wildland fire management career began with the Oregon Department of Forestry in 1985, where he spent 2 seasons on Type 3 engines. Since then, he has worked as a range management specialist, fuel specialist, prescribed fire planner, and fire ecologist. His graduate research quantified fire regimes, adaptive fire guilds, and patterns of biodiversity in the Hells Canyon of Idaho. Now his primary responsibilities include outreach and technology transfer related to fire regime assessment, land fire data development, resilient science, and management strategies in the sagebrush steppe. Welcome, Doug, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Good
afternoon, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to get the other folks?
Yeah. David Mehlman is the director of the Nature Conservancy's Migratory Bird Program based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Dave serves as the Conservancy's staff person on the North American Wetlands Conservation Council, directs the program's Gulf Wings project, and represents the Conservancy on the Gulf Coast Joint Venture and North American Bird Conservation Initiative. He also administers avian research and conservation projects in various countries in Latin America, and has been a contributor to the U.S. State of the Birds reports for 6 of the last 8 years, and the 2016 State of North America's Bird Report. At the present time, Dave is actively working on important bird conservation issues, such as the greater sage grouse and the impacts of wind energy development on birds. Welcome, David, and thank you for being here.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
And finally, Gillian Silvertand works as a project manager and e-learning developer and designer for the Nature Conservancy's Technology Learning Center in Long Beach, California. In this capacity, Jill has worked with many different organizations to build and host online training on the Nature Conservancy's external learning management site, conservationtraining.org. Welcome, Jill, and thank you for being here.
Thanks very much.
All right, Doug, now I forget, am I making you the presenter? Do you have slides to show?
No slides, just a few comments to get started.
Okay. You can go for it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for making time today to join us for the webinar. I was assigned as BLM's point of contact for this project and just wanted to share a little bit of background on the series, and then I'll turn the rest of the conversation over to Jill and Dave. The origin of this learning series was the Integrated Rangeland Fire Management Strategy of 2015, where there were roughly 55 action items identified, and this was one of the action items. So the tasking assigned to BLM was to, and I'll give you the exact wording, was to develop and make available a comprehensive knowledge transfer program to enhance fuels and vegetation management across the sagebrush steppe. Because this was so broadly worded, we interpreted this tasking to be to develop a web-based interactive learning series for natural resource practitioners with added emphasis on greater sage grouse and their habitats. So to do this, we elected to partner with 2 branches of the Nature Conservancy, recognizing the skills that they offered in both tech transfer and then avian biology. So the TNC branch, which produces training and educational materials, is the Conservancy's Technology Learning Center, TLC. And 3 key staff from the TLC I'd like to recognize are Chanda Carpenter, Nicole Sy, and Jill Silvertand. These were the folks that really made the series look and feel as nice as they do. And then the TNC branch that brought the expertise in sagebrush and sage-grouse biology is the Conservancy's Western Sage-Grouse team. And from that team, we were lucky enough to have Dr. Dave Mehlman agree to be the lead scientist who would summarize the state of the science and develop the scripts for the lessons that you'll go through. At the onset of the project, we came up with a model that we'd use for this learning series. One, we would have an adult learning style combining interviews with subject matter experts. We would use existing videos and foundational science and include graphics and text in this web-based format. Each topic would have a common look and feel in that we would frame the ecological issue or problem. We would present the science. We would share tools which land managers could use and apply. And then we would share case studies and lessons learned and at times success stories. And then literature that we found to be really current and relevant. We summarized those and provide those to you. So at the end, there were 6 topics or lessons, which Dave will showcase in just a minute. So to conclude my comments, I imagine many of you on the call are involved in some facet of sagebrush or sage-grouse conservation. And as we developed the series, Dave and I found there was a large amount of similar tech transfer that existed. So as those materials fit, we did our best to incorporate those into this learning series. And in doing the final review and the edits of the lessons, I was thinking about the huge strides and the progress that we've made in the 2 short years since the secretarial order and the strategy and the progress that those have led to. And I hope that as you go through the lessons, you'll have a similar optimism after looking at the material. So with that, Jill, I'll turn it to Janae or Jill, and you can take over.
All right, thanks so much, Doug. Yeah, and I just wanted to, this is Janie, and I wanted to just briefly say that the role of the Great Basin Fire Science Exchange in this is to make sure that this information and training and other opportunities gets out to folks. So our role is to do things like host this webinar right now to get this information out to folks, and also we'll have links to it up on our website. And if there's anything else as far as information needs from the audience, we're happy to help out with that. Yeah, so with that, I will hand it over to Jill.
Great. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay,
once I have.
Yeah, making you the presenter right now. There you go.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me today to come in and share some of the information about this program. We've been working, so as I was introduced, I'm part of the Technology Learning Center here at TNC, and we've been working with Dave and Doug for, gosh, a little over a year on, or maybe a little bit more than that, on this program. And we decided, as we were going through the creation of these web-based training materials, we were evaluating where to host it. And there were many different options, but we sort of landed on hosting the content on our what's called a learning management system. So this is our external learning management system. So within TNC, we have an internal one that's just for our staff, but we also build and support this system called conservationtraining.org, and this is probably new to all of you on the line. So welcome to Conservation Training. We built this site, we being the Technology Learning Center, built this site about 9 years ago, and we run and operate this. It's free and open to the public, and we have partnered with many different organizations to bring content, conservation-focused, science-focused content to conservationists and public, and anybody who wants to come here, they can take our materials. So this is our homepage for conservationtraining.org, and you'll notice that there is the ability to log in. So if you choose to, you may sign up and create an account. So there's information here about how to sign up and create an account. You are more than welcome to sign up and create an account. Most of our training, so if I click on the curriculums tab up along the top, most of the offerings that we have available do require a login. The account is free to create, and once you've built it, you can come in here and you can take any of the courses that we offer. So let's say you're interested in learning a little bit about our mangroves curriculum, mangroves, biodiversity, and ecosystems. Great, come on in. We're happy to have you. Of course, you know, the main focus for today was how we're supporting and this the course that we created for the sagebrush-steppe. What we decided to do with this training was to not require a login. So you don't have to create an account to come to conservation training and view the materials. And we did this because we wanted it to be very easy to access. We wanted you to be able to just get in here. You can get on it on your phone or on your iPad, on your computer. You come to the URL, just go to conservationtraining.org, click on curriculums, and you'll see the link for sagebrush. So when I click on that, I can just see a little bit of information that tells us about the partnership that we did between BLM and TNC, and then I can click to enter the actual program itself, the content itself. And Dave's going to go through this content in a lot of detail in just a moment. But what I just wanted to do was introduce conservation training to you, welcome you to the site. As I said, this is open, freely available to you and to anybody that you want to reference it. So let's say you're working with somebody, you can reference this link, and they can go straight here and they can take any of the training that's available. And once I get in there, I'm going to turn, whoops, oh no, hold on, it shouldn't do that. There we go. I think my system just got confused. As I said, I don't need to log in. You didn't see me put any username or password in there. And in fact, what the system does is it automatically just says, hey, you're a guest. So you're allowed to come in here. And as I said, if you choose to, there is other training available on the site. You'll have to create an account for that, but it's a free account. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the site, how we run it, what it's built on. So just feel free to put those in the questions panel, and I can certainly answer any questions about conservation training, how we built it, how we built any of the content in here at the end of the session. So with that, let's turn it over to Dave to take us through the actual content.
Okay, thanks, Jill. And Dave, I'm making you the presenter now.
Okay, thanks everyone for that introduction. I'm going to sort of pick up where Jill left off. Hopefully on the screen you can see that the landing page for the course, which basically starts with some logos, a little bit of introductory material that we can scroll through, and then here at the bottom we see the links to the 6 lessons or topics that we built for this course, and they are the first one is a sort of a general introduction into conservation issues facing the sagebrush-steppe and the greater sage-grouse. There's an introduction to resistance and resilience, since that's a thread that runs through pretty much everything. Section on conifer and encroach systems, a section on systems invaded by annual grasses, section on the restoration of sagebrush ecosystems, and then we concluded with a special section on eastern range issues, because there are several unique characteristics to that part of the range. Again, the idea here is that if one wants to, you could step through these in sequence, or you can pick up any one that you might be particularly interested in and ignore others if you feel that you are more familiar with them. So our whole idea is this is driven by sort of a self-paced learning thing. Now I'm going to kind of sort of cherry pick a few things in the course here to show you today. To go through the whole thing would be, I think, a little bit too long, but you can get a flavor of it, and we can go into more detail later. And I think we'd all encourage you to link to the course and explore it on your own later. I will be putting up a direct link to the course at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to start with the introductory lesson. Again, we've structured this with a very short drop down, a brief capsule description of the lesson, and then I can click on the link to actually dive right into the course content. Now in this case, excuse me, this is a typical, the way we've structured all these lessons. We have a page that you can scroll down through to the bottom with a variety of information, and then each course has several sections up here on the top right, which are directly accessible by links. They also show how we have mixed, and the introduction shows this, I think, quite nicely. There are several different sections in each, which may include text, like we've got here, links to external videos that we thought would be of relevance for the topic. And then at the bottom, we have a set of just interesting facts to sort of intrigue the reader. Throughout the entire course, we have our sort of I think the unique thing about this is we have generously enrolled a whole variety of cooperators to give us source videos or expert videos, we call it, on these particularly topics of interest to kind of give it or hopefully keep it engaging. You can navigate again to each section either by clicking on the top right, or I'm going to go here to click on the science section of the introduction here to sort of scroll through the different subtopics in each one. In this case, again, we have a similar format of a whole bunch of different topics, again, combining text, graphs from literature, topic videos, and maps and all sorts of multimedia like that. As an example, I'm also going to show we can pick a subtopic directly. For instance, from the science menu, I'm going to just sort of randomly jump down here to what is the science of wildfire telling us, and I'll click that and it'll hop right down to that section where we have a expert video from Pete Coates from USGS talking a little bit about some of the science behind burning and wildfire in the sagebrush, a little bit of text, and then we have a little bit of more sort of deep dive information on some of the published information. In this case, we've shown some relevant graphs related to fire size distribution and some other material related to that topic. So I'm going to go, and then when you're done with a particular lesson, you can just click close that window and you're back to the landing page. And I thought sort of to continue the example a little bit further, I'm going to dive into the conifer encroach systems a little bit more deeply here to show you a little more what some of the meat of these lessons are all about. Again, most of these topics are structured like this, where we have a sort of a basic landing page which describes the problem we're trying to solve here, in this case, conifer encroach systems. And again, we have our standard format of some text, some videos, graphs, interesting facts, and similar type matter. And then I'm going to continue on to the science section here, which again, we're giving an overview of some of the science of what we know about the problem of conifer encroach system. In this case, again, we're beginning with a introductory video about the problem of conifer encroachment from Rick Miller from Oregon State University. And I'm going to go ahead and play this video just as one example. I'm sure many of you on the call either know Rick or know of his important work on this problem, and I thought this would be a nice give you a flavor of how we've structured these expert videos. And so it's kind of low tech, but hopefully this will work.
When we talk about encroachment, probably need to define that. And to me, encroachment is juniper woodlands moving into such a sagebrush steppe in communities where, as far as we know, at least for the several hundreds of years or thousands of years, that has been a sagebrush steppe, and it's now becoming a woodland. We know that juniper has been very dynamic since the Holocene, and really, for the last 10,000 years. But we're really seeing an unprecedented increase in juniper with the kinds of climate conditions that we have in the last, really since the late 1800s. And there's quite a bit of debate on that. Fire, of course, is one of the big ones that we hear a lot. We hear a lot of people say, no, it's strictly climate driven. I'm in the camp that I feel fire and climate are important components. And if you look, I think, and really put it into context, the whole Great Basin and the Columbia and the Colorado Plateaus, you find that it depends on where you are. For example, in the northern part of the Great Basin and the northern part of the sagebrush steppe, fire is 5 times more likely to occur on an acre of ground than it is in the southern part of the Great Basin or the Colorado Plateau. So fire is a much more likely occurrence up here. The other thing is that we know there was a dramatic decline in fire occurrence in the late 1800s, and we attribute that a lot to the reduction of fine fuels through livestock grazing. But to top that off, between 1905 and 1917, we went through what is called the wet pluvial period, where it was wet from the Mexican border all the way up into the northern U.S. up in the Canadian border. Very, very wet. And under wet conditions, we have great cone production and great seedling establishment. However, in wet conditions, in fuel-limited systems, we also get big buildup of fine fuel, and we should have seen increases in fire during that time period. But we didn't because of the reduction of fine fuels. So in areas where fire did play an historic role in a lot of these plant communities, in these sites, we've been seeing considerable expansion. We've also seen during this wet pluvial period, we've seen a lot of infill, and so there's a lot of very good dendrochronology evidence throughout the Great Basin to say that these old woodlands were relatively open stands, more open, although we did have a lot of closed stands, and that there's been significant infill throughout, from Mesa Verde, a lot of the Colorado Plateau, right up into the areas that we are today in the northern parts of the Great Basin and up through the Snake River Plateau.
So again, I said that's an example of these kind of expert videos we have in here, which are scattered throughout. Again, and also similarly, all these sections of these courses are structured into subsections, and we can use the drop-down menu to either go to a particular one, to either skip over pieces or go back at any future time, or refresh yourself. Each lesson also has, when I get down to the bottom after I finish, we've included a section for each of our lessons on tools or land management tools, which a manager could use to help out in their work. As an example, for conifer encroach systems, we've included a lot of the great information that's available through the Sage Grouse Initiative on things like tree canopy cover, ecosystem resilience and resistance, cultivation risk, and those kind of things, guidance that's been published on what areas to treat, identifying treatment sites, and just a wide variety of information we've compiled into here for sort of one-stop shopping. Each lesson also includes one or more sort of case studies of where some of these best tools or some of these science that we have talked about have been implemented. In this case, we have Jeremy Maestas talking a little bit about how sage grouse respond to conifer removal. And then we've included a very specific case study on the South Warner Landscape Restoration Project in southeastern Oregon, undertaken by the BLM and the Sage Grouse Initiative and the staff out there. And this, again, has much more detail on a very specific case study, which includes a description of the project, photographs, some maps, before and after photos, as you can see here, and then some expert discussion or insight from some of the staff who actually ran this project. And in this case, we also have some of the science that's showing the positive results for sage grouse and other kind of birds. Finally, each lesson also includes a resource section to give sort of both act as sort of a literature cited section for where we got the information we use, but then also provide links for the interested readers to take much more deeper dives into the literature. And typically what we've done for each lesson is we have a set of the key literature, the things that were really essential sources for us to use in the lesson or that are kind of the standard, if you will, references for the topic. And then all of these are actually linked to a hard copy version on a server, so you can, if you want to actually see the source document, you can click on that, read it, print it, and even save it to your home computer or your work computer. Some of the lessons actually also have links to websites, but then they all also have what we're calling a set of supplemental literature. And these are additional references to the topic that are perhaps less critically important, but they're also useful references for those who want to dig into the literature more. And then to the extent that these papers and things are publicly available, we have also provided links to hard copies of them. And then finally, for some of the courses, we've also provided sort of at the end the kind of raw video footage we shot, the outtakes, if you will, for all the experts that we interviewed because in many cases we took much more material than we could really possibly use in the lesson. And so that's kind of a quick overview of the discussion. I'm going to put up this slide now. This shows that's the link to the direct link to the training course, which also was contained in the information that we distributed. It's gone out through several sources by email. And here's some more information. And I did want to conclude by sort of thanking our expert topic speakers. Literally, this project would not have been possible without their participation and their willingness to give us a whole lot of time to help us out. And I'd just like to read off their names really quickly because, again, without their input, this would not have been possible. And some of them, in fact, are featured multiple times. And they include Chad Boyd from USDA, Doug Havlina from BLM, Holly Copeland from the Nature Conservancy, Jay Kirby, also from the Nature Conservancy, Gene Chambers from U.S. Forest Service, Jeff Rose from BLM, Jeremy Maestas from USDA, Lance Okeson from BLM, Matt Germino from USGS, Matt Haskins from BLM, Mike Pellant from BLM, Pat Dybert from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Pete Coates from USGS, Rick Miller from OSU, Sean Espinosa from Nevada Division of Wildlife, Steve Nick from USGS, and Tony Svechkar from USDA. So I think with that, I'll stop talking and we'll open it up to any questions or other comments that folks might have.
Great, thanks, Dave. Yeah, so audience, we have plenty of time for questions. So if you have questions, if you want Dave to navigate to something, if you want to see something in particular, or if you have questions for Jill about how they put some of this together technologically, please type them into your questions window. And I will read those off to the presenters. In the meantime, I have some questions. So how long approximately does it take to get through this entire training? Have you ever timed it?
Well, that's a good question. I've never actually done it in one setting. I would estimate if you did the whole thing from top to bottom, it would probably take on the order of 2 hours.
Oh, okay, that's pretty quick for all those topics. And then another question, do you offer any credits for taking, I guess I don't even really know what I'm asking specifically, but is there any way to get credits for taking these lessons?
No, well, no, we opted not to do anything like credits or testing or anything like that, primarily because, as Doug said at the beginning, this was a specific deliverable under the Integrated Rangeland Fire Management Strategy. So our goal was to make the information available, so there's no credit specifically taking, and we opted not to have any kind of testing, even informal stuff, because we thought that that wouldn't really add any value.
Okay, great, thanks. Some questions are coming in. Does this represent a static lesson plan, or will it be updated as new information and research comes out?
Yeah, I'll try to weigh in there, Janae. Yeah, we realized that the science changes and there's emerging topics that come online, and you know, frankly, we haven't arrived at that idea if we'll be updating the lessons or adding to the lessons, but we have had a fair amount of interest from the leadership of some of the federal agencies about trying to continue this. There is some administrivia behind the scenes as far as developing a contract and partnering with TNC, and that deliverable has been done. So we would need to stand up another contract, but should there be enough interest and need, I think we certainly would do so.
And this is Jill, just to add on to that. The programming behind all of the content that you see was mainly done with pretty much straight HTML. There's some CSS in there for anybody who does any web-based programming. So the content itself is hosted on the conservationtraining.org, but the physical files are owned by the BLM. So for example, if the BLM wanted to take everything and stand it up on another site, you're obviously more than welcome to do it, because those are, you know, that content is owned by the BLM. But we just have everything running on conservation training. We have all the thousands of files on our file site, on our server. So, you know, all of that content is available for the BLM if they wanted to take it and move it in a different direction as well.
Great, thank you. We got a request to see the South Warner video. I don't know how long that one is. Is that a possibility?
You bet.
And people are welcome to continue to type in questions.
Let me play. There's actually two of them here. I'll certainly play the first one, and if people are interested, we'll go on the second.
Great.
Treatments to improve ecological conditions in the South Waters began in 2012. At a broad scale, our monitoring and land health assessment showed a steady decline in sagebrush, bitterbrush, and sage-grouse-reliant forests associated with the infill of western juniper into sagebrush habitats. As a result, the objectives we developed for the South Warner Sagebrush Restoration Project were to remove post-settlement juniper by 45% to improve habitat for wildlife such as sage-grouse, mule deer, bighorn sheep, and pronghorn antelope, and maintaining, repairing, and improving the integrity of sagebrush-steppe and bitterbrush habitats, as well as aspen stands. The primary treatments applied.
Dave, this one's a little bit quieter than the Rick one.
The treatments began in 2012 and are continuing today.
Thanks.
The final juniper removal treatments are scheduled to be completed in 2019. We have been very cognizant of the importance of retaining sagebrush while removing juniper, and our prescriptions reflect this need. Over time, we have modified our prescriptions to result in a very surgical approach. We are able to retain sagebrush by burning piles in weir-like circumstances, or while the surrounding sagebrush community is in green-up conditions, and avoiding those periods where
Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to apologize to the audience. Currently, I don't believe there's any webinar system, at least a GoToWebinar system doesn't have any way of incorporating video audio in addition to panelist audio, so that's why it's a little bit quiet. Someday we'll have that. But yeah, thank you, Dave. Another question, will statistics be available for access and use?
So statistics in terms of how many people have accessed the site?
That's what I'm assuming. Yes.
Yeah, so on conservation training, I mentioned that this site, this particular course on conservation training, we are not requiring a login, so we're not requiring an account. So I will not be able to track who has logged in, who has taken, any of the lessons. What we can track are IP, like access. So we can say, we've had this many people click to view the page. But I can't say who did it because we're not tracking users for this particular training. So hopefully that helps.
I have a follow-up with that. Can you tell if they are like unique IPs? So if one person is clicking on something a lot, is that just, can you tell the difference between those two things?
We should be able to, yes.
Great. Excellent. Well, that is all the questions we have right now.
I think there was one comment that Doug made was, Janae, could you describe the link from the GRFS website to the course?
GBFSE? Sure. So we are on our website, on the Great Basin Fire Science Exchange website, you can search by topic or type of resource, we just have like an overall search in our header too. So you can type in sagebrush training videos, and that will bring up the link to the site, or you can click on the trainings in the resource types options. You can click on trainings, and that we can find it there as well.
Great. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you want to expand on.
I would just add, Janae, that if folks have an interest in or some specific questions on some of the content, feel free to get hold of Dave or I. Dave has shown our contact information. Love to get some feedback one-on-one and hear some of your impressions. And thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, you guys. So thank you, everyone, for your participation. And I will post the recording of this webinar on our Great Basin Fire Science Exchange YouTube channel this afternoon. And the link will be automatically sent to you through the GoToWebinar system. Let's see. And if you have further questions, as Doug mentioned, please contact Doug or Dave. And then if you have questions about upcoming webinars in general, please email or call me anytime. And again, thank you so much for your presentations, Doug, Jill, and Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, actually, one more question came in. Will there be any platform for later input using the material? Anyone?
I'm not sure I understand fully the question. So platform for the application of the materials?
Let's see.
Maybe the person could further explain.
Yeah, if you could clarify, that would be great. I guess I took it as if people wanted to provide input to update the material, what platform would that be? That's how I read it. I don't know if that's right.
That's a great, I mean, if it's in terms of updates to the material, so like anything, once it's been written and published, you inevitably find an error or an issue. So, my goal is to, from the conservation training perspective, from the technology perspective, to make it as clean as possible. So if you do see spelling mistakes, errors, that sort of thing, you know, Doug and Dave have put their contact information up there. You could email them and let them know. You're welcome to email me my contact information. I can put it in the chat panel. But you know, feel free to send me an email. And we usually, in terms of updates, what we like to do is at least every year, if not more frequently, depending on the severity of the issue, do the update so that we have, you know, the materials as clean as possible. If there's a significant change where, let's say, we need to replace a whole section or we want to add a section, that would, for my team, we would have to schedule that out a bit and make sure that we have our programmers available. So that would be something we scheduled. But for issues, especially if they're showstoppers, you know, we've put something in completely wrong, we will respond to fix it as soon as possible.
And I would just add that given that BLM is the lead agency for this, just any commentary about, you know, another useful topic or kind of an emerging issue would be X, Y, or Z, and I'll kind of be compiling those. And so no, I don't think this is a static product. There'd be some legwork behind the scenes to add some additional topics, but that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, we'd again certainly welcome feedback and suggestions for what might lie ahead in the future.
Great, thank you so much. All right, well, thanks again, everyone, and thank you to our attendees for your participation. And yeah, have a wonderful day.
Right, thanks so much.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.